There we go. We're live in all the places. Hey, everybody. Good evening. Happy Wednesday. I'm Carol Williams with the Williams Immigration, a boutique immigration law firm in sunny South Florida, and we help entrepreneurs and business owners and families navigate our U.S. immigration system with all the fast and furious changes that we are seeing. So I'm a little bit I had wanted to be this evening, but it rained, so I had to go on my walk a little bit later than I had planned. But I'm here now. So I wanted to give you guys two updates, one of which happened today, and the other one today, really. One of them went into effect today, one of them was announced today. It's a better way to put it. So the first one is no more, as of today, if you're filing something with immigration, USCIS, no more checks, no more money orders. They are only accepting payment now via electronic methods. So that would be credit card or ACH withdrawals. And there's a different form, one for credit cards, one for ACH. You can find them on the USCIS website. There are some exemptions, but I mean, truly, they really just want you to pay using some sort of electronic method so they can get away from all the paper. So that is effective now. So if you're sending something into them tomorrow, please do not send in a check. They will send it right on back to you. And if they send it back to you, it could take them weeks, truly weeks to get it back to you. So that's a super important update I've been talking about for a while now. The second update I have for you, the second thing happened today. USCIS made an announcement, and this is for people that have, or are, I should say, going to apply for employment authorization documents. So if you're applying for an EAD and you are applying for a renewal EAD, so at least your second EAD, you no longer have the benefit of the 540 days automatic extension if you timely file for your renewal EAD. So let me tell you what that means. At the end of the day, that could mean that you have a gap in your work authorization. Currently, you can only file your renewal EAD 180 days, or roughly 6 months, before the expiration, before you need a new EAD. The current processing time for an EAD in connection with an adjustment of status, which we know on this platform is a green card, that current processing time for that EAD is taking 7 months. That's what they've posted on their own website. So that's about a month gap. I've been getting questions today. Do I think USCIS will start processing EADs quicker? I don't know. The reason they are doing away with the automatic extension is that they are saying that they're wanting to focus on increased vetting and security. So my crystal ball tells me that if their focus is security, their focus is not doing things quickly. So it is super, super important that if you are an employer, you have individuals working for you that are on your team that are working pursuant to EAD, that you know when that EAD expires and that you file for the renewal EAD as soon as you possibly can. If you are an employee and you have work authorization based on an EAD, it is extremely important that you yourself monitor the expiration date of your EAD and have a conversation with your employer about it. If your employer is the one that helped you get the EAD in the first place, if they did not, and you did it on your own, then it is super important that you file that renewal EAD as early as you possibly can. Otherwise, if the processing times stay what they currently are, and you do not file timely, you will have an employment gap. I mean, at this point, given the current processing times, So if the processing times speed up and they go back to what it was, I think it was like 3 months previously, something like that. God, it's been so long since then you won't have an employment gap. But if they stay hovering right around 7 months, then you are looking at potentially having an employment gap. If you are an employer and you have folks that are on H's and L's, keep them on their H's and L's even though they have an adjustment of status filed. If you are an international student, you want to make sure that you are filing your EAD for your OPT at the earliest date possible. Um, I predict that we're looking at a backlog. I predict that we're looking at a further backlog with these EEDs. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I would be very happy to be wrong. Um, so we'll see. But that came out. That was announced today. So we'll see what happens. But I wanted y'all to know that because that is super super important. And I'm happy to answer some questions that you guys have. But remember, as I answer questions, I am an immigration lawyer. I've been practicing for almost 30 years. I'm not your immigration lawyer. So this is all just educational. This is answering some general questions. This is providing you with some basic knowledge. If you want to talk to me about your specific case, then you've got to hit the bio, hit the link for consult, and then we can start. We can have like a real in-depth conversation. So we've got some questions coming in. So let's see what we have. Let's see here. Thanks for the hearts, guys. You guys are always so nice to me. Although, well, the majority of you are nice to me. Some of you post some not so lovely things, but I just choose to ignore the not so nice things. What do we got here? What do we got here? Any insight as to why waiting over 3 months for N400 after interview and was approved in there? So an N400, for those of you that may not know, is a citizenship application. So waiting over 3 months. So I don't actually know if the officer said to you, but some officers will say, I'm going to approve you. Some officers will say, I'm going to recommend you for approval. Nothing is approved until you get an approval notice. And so we talked about this a little bit on, but nothing is approved with the Immigration Service until you have that piece of paper in your hand. Oftentimes, somebody behind the scenes, supervisor, somebody else in sort of the workflow process has to take action on an application after an interview. The government has been shut down now for 29 days. So that is probably part of why there's a lag. So that would put you, assuming we weren't in a government shutdown, let's say that would put you at 2 months behind, right? Or 2 months after, say 2 months really. But on the calendar, it's 3 months, and I get it. You want it yesterday. It could be that someone has been out on vacation. It could be somebody has been out on sick leave. It could be that office is understaffed. It could be that they are doing further background checks. It could be that your background check hadn't actually come in by the time of your interview, and they're still waiting on it. And now that's going to be even more delayed with the government shutdown. It could be none of those things, and it could be that just the person who has to take action on your case next after the officer just hasn't gotten to it. So I'm not going to throw up red flags just quite yet and say that you should be screwed about it. It's not nice, right? Like nobody likes to wait 3 months. You can certainly send a like a note and say, hey, what's going on? To USCIS and ask them, but 3 months, depending on the office, doesn't necessarily shock me. But as to like the exact reason why it's taking that long, I don't know. I mean, it could be a myriad of things, but again, not something that would freak me out just quite yet. That wouldn't freak me out. I I wouldn't have my clients freaking out about that. So I hope that was helpful. Lexus is asking, I'm a green card holder. Can I travel internationally? I have no idea. It's not an answer you want to hear, but no, let me add a little bit more to that. So, um, if you are a green card holder, should you be able to go overseas? Can you buy tickets on a plane overseas? Absolutely. The question is, will they let you back in? If you have committed crimes anywhere in the world, um, they may, they may, you may have an issue at the border. Um, if you have any sort of other immigration issues that have popped up after you got your green card, you may have problems coming back in. If you have a social media account that they're not pleased with the content, you may have to have some extra conversations when you are at the airport. So, uh, right now, in this particular atmosphere, um, I'm a green card holder. Can I travel internationally? Is a I don't know. I look and see what my clients are doing. We have a conversation about it. Um, it is not unusual that someone gets a green card and then has an unfortunate encounter with law enforcement. So those are not assumptions that I can make. So the answer is I don't know. In general, the rule is if you've got your green, that allows you to travel in and out of the U.S. The better question is should you? And that answer I don't know. So I hope that is helpful. I hope that gives you sort of a few things to think about in your own particular situation. Uh, let's see, how long does it take to approved when adjustment of status is submitted? So that's a super broad question, and there's more than one category when you are filing for an adjustment of status. So what you need to do is look on the USCIS website. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up. It's been a while since I logged through the USCIS status update. So you go to USCIS.gov. You're going to scroll down. Everything on the web on the on the whole page is in boxes, which is actually really quite convenient. You're going to go to the box that says Manage Your Case. You're going to go to Check Processing Times. It makes me verify that I'm a human being. And then you're going to go scroll down a little bit. You're going to hit Form. You're going to hit 45. Status. 45. And then you're going to go to Form Category. And there's several different categories here. Um, so click the category that you want. And just so that you guys know, the categories are employment-based, family-based, under the Haitian Refugee Immigration Fairness Act, based on a grant of asylum, based on refugee admission, approved T, and approved U. Those are the big, broad categories that they have for us. So you click the category that is you, then you click all field offices for service center operations, and then you get processing times, and then it'll tell you what your processing time is. So that will tell you what 80% of the cases that are similar to yours in the same category that they are being processed. Could your case be quicker? Absolutely. Could your case take longer? Absolutely. It is only that gives a snapshot for 80% of the cases that are similar to yours. So that is what I would recommend that you do. That is how you check that's how you check the general processing times. Someone has a question about asylum. Unfortunately, my office doesn't handle asylum, so I'm not generally the best person to answer that for you. Um, went all the way down. Let me go back up, please. Here we go. Let's see here. How long does it take for an approved 785 when adjusting status? I would say go onto the USCIS website and take a look. 785. I don't see a 785. Are you sure do you mean a 765? Do you mean employment authorization? I don't see a form 785 as an option. Oh, yeah, you do. Never mind. A 765. A 765 is going to depend on the category. So just because you're applying for a work author, just because you're applying for an EAD, it's part of the processing time depends on the office that is processing your case and the type of case that you have. So in EAD, if I assume that it is, um, let's say, based on an employment-based adjustment, then we're looking at 7 months, right? Or if it's based on, sorry, if it's based on an adjustment of status, it's taking roughly 7 months. If it's based on something else, then it's gonna have a different processing time. So the best place to get your processing times, if you are not working with an attorney who can sort of look in their own roster of cases, give you sort of like an underground look just to see what's happening in their office, is to go online and look at USCIS. But adjustment of status, roughly, if you're looking for an adjustment of an EAD right now, they're taking roughly about 7 months. Someone's asking, why does it take so long? I mean, that is a lie that we could talk about forever. Um, One, long, the word long, in terms of processing times, it's relative, right? Like what I think is a short processing time, you all often think is entirely too long, right? I don't think it's necessarily a long processing time because I do this all day, every day. And so I kind of see what's been happening over a longer period of time, so over years. Um, but what can cause applications to take longer than we would like? There can be a hiring freeze. There can be more work than there are people to process that work in some sort of, relatively quick fashion. Somebody could have left an office and they haven't reassembled the work on their desk yet. Somebody could be out on vacation. Somebody could be out on extended sick leave. Um, Work could be your file could be transferred to another office, and that takes time to actually effectuate that transfer. So lots of reasons why cases can take longer than like. And listen, like I always say this, like I'm not the most patient person out here, right? But I do understand that there is a process in place that the agency goes through. They have a job to do. So uh, they are going to they're going to do their job to the best of their ability, and sometimes that takes them longer than we would like, but it is what it is. I expect. Um, I had a DUI and a felony 12 years ago. I have two pending DUIs. I think I can be a U.S. citizen. Um, so when we're looking at applications for human citizenship, um, there's a standard called good moral character. Good moral character used to be, and to a certain extent still is, it used to be the absence, us showing sort of the absence of things. So the absence of you having felonies, DUI, a criminal history, um, the absence of you uh, owing the IRS, right? You being able to show you have paid support for your children, whether or not you had a full child support order in place or not. Now, good moral character is that as well as showing the positive things that you have going for you. So are you volunteering in your community? Are you a mentor? Are you part of the Big Brother Big Sister organization? What do you do other than just kind of like live? Like how are you making things better, right? How are what are you contributing? So I tell anyone if they have a criminal history and want to apply for either a green card or citizenship, they really need to be working with an attorney. That attorney needs to, or you benefit from having that attorney do a criminal analysis. Um, absolute benefit. Even if the outcome of the analysis is you shouldn't apply for citizenship right now, or the outcome of that analysis is your application has some hurdles. Um, you know, then you discuss the hurdles. So I would say that you should have a conversation with an immigration attorney. Uh, Savannah saying I applied for 45 and 765 in June. Uh, System still says 5 months. Biometric set or anything. Should we be worried? I doubt it. First, I would look at the processing times on USCIS. Understand that the government is also shut down, so that is certainly going to impact the processing times. Also, understand the processing times are not updated daily. Maybe maybe monthly, maybe quarterly. I don't actually remember the cadence which the processing times are updated, but they're definitely not updated every day. Um, so, but yeah, no, I'm not throwing up red flags that it's been 5 months, right? Um, I'm not throwing up red flags yet. I have a much better sense of when we have a red flag based on time if I know what's happened in the application. Because sometimes I can look at an application and say, oh well, here, right here, this thing is the issue. They are probably trying to sort through that. But just the 5 months by itself, that doesn't necessarily give me pause. What you can do is you can go online, and once you click through the processing times, once you get that processing time, it'll give you a little something at the bottom where you can type in the date, your actual receipt date, and it will give you a date that you can do, or which you can ask them, hey, it looks like we're behind processing times. Um, they, I've had, fairly good luck with them answering that. Let's see. Some of y'all are putting your questions in here more than once. I'm a U.S. citizen. I lost my passport. What other documents can I use to re-enter the U.S. ASAP? I would recommend that you go to your nearest U.S. consulate, and they can give you, once they determine who you are, once they, then they can issue you a new passport and or boarding documents. But if you are a U.S. citizen overseas and you need assistance, always look at the consulate. Let's see here. Let's see here. Um, I live in a small town. Oh, this is a great question. Um, I live in a small town in California, though it doesn't really matter which state, or my answer doesn't really matter in terms of which state. It's just my answer isn't influenced by the state. I live in a small town in California. Does that mean my application for U.S. citizenship will be faster? Not necessarily. But that's a really good question. So applications are processed by the local office that has jurisdiction over where you live. So if you are in a small town, but your small town is next to larger towns, right? And all of those larger towns are feed into the same local office. And if a lot of people in those larger towns are filing applications, it doesn't matter that you live in a small town, right? Because it's first in, first out in terms of how the immigration service processes cases. Um, so if you're in California, so if you're in a small town, that's like right next door to Los Angeles, probably not. Probably not. If you're in a small town that's maybe right next door to Ojai, and there's and LA is not your local office, and I don't know this to be the case. But if you're in a smaller town close to Ojai and where you live, your office doesn't feed into LA, maybe it'll be quicker. Maybe because all the smaller surrounding area around Ojai maybe doesn't have as many people feeding in applications. Now, like I said before, sometimes there is a delay in your application, and that could be because they're assessing the workload of like LA office and another office in California, and so the other office in California, close to your small town, maybe doesn't have as much work going on, but the LA office is swamped. So they're gonna take cases from the LA office and transfer them up to your smaller office close to Ojai, right? So in that case, it kind of balances it all out. At the end of the day, the immigration is just really trying to balance out workload, and make sure sort of every office has roughly sort of these similar workload. Um, but unless your local office encompasses a lot of small towns, and those small towns are not filing a whole bunch of cases, meh, living in a small town doesn't really necessarily help your case get processed quicker. So I hope that's helpful. Not the answer you wanted, I knew, but I hope that is helpful. Um, Someone is asking, how did I feel when I denied someone? LOL, I just realized you're a former officer. So I was an officer at headquarters, so I did not process cases. So I was never in a position to directly deny or approve, for that matter, a case. So that is not what I did within the agency. Um, um, it is USCIS still open with a government shutdown? Yes, USCIS is still open with the government shutdown. USCIS is, some of put in your question like 5,000 times. Um, USCIS is still open with the government shutdown. USCIS is a fee-funded agency, which means that the majority of their operating budget comes from the filing fees that they receive from applications. So when there's a government shutdown, they do not have to shut down. They can still operate. Department of State that oversees the U.S. consulates. The U.S. consulates are still up and running for now. I haven't heard that they have closed. The agency ICE, as we know, has they're still up and running. Um, Department of Labor is not, however, running during the shutdown, and so their closure, the Department of Labor closure, is negatively impacting some of the employment-based cases. So if you're in EB 2 or 3 and you need a perm, if you are in H1B, EB 2, EB 3, and you need a prevailing wage, those are not happening because those come out of Department of Labor. So um, several different agencies, several different federal agencies can touch one immigration case as it winds its way through the system. So if you need, right now, if you need Department of Labor as part of the processing of your case, um, you're sort of in a bit of a stalled pattern right now. That's not to say that we're not doing things in those cases to move them forward on our end as attorneys, but obviously doing everything that we can do except what we have to do to deal with and to communicate with the Department of Labor. Uh, let's see here. How are 290B denials reversed? Are other factors considered time in U.S., moral character, or family? So 290B, um, so 290B is when your case has been denied and you would like to appeal it, file a motion to reopen it. It's actually a really good question. So some of that is looking, well, a lot of it is looking at what was originally filed, Um, did the evidence that was originally filed show how you met the requirements of the application? Um, if you think now there if you get the impression that maybe the Immigration Service misunderstood some of the some of the evidence that was submitted, you can certainly, explain to them further. Um, Usually, however, um, when we get to a denial phase, we've already had an opportunity to have a conversation with them after we file, and that is a request for further evidence. So they've already looked at a second sort of explanation from us. So by the time we get to the 290, sometimes it is first a strategy question of do we want to file the 290B? Um, yeah, sometimes it doesn't really even make sense to file it. Sometimes things have occurred after the initial application was filed and the denial that you didn't talk about in the initial application. And so that whatever that thing is or those things are, may actually help your application. So you may just start over. Um, but a 290B there's a lot of strategy behind a 290B. Um, so for some cases, for some I'm in the US, no character, family, all that might come into it. Or it might be completely irrelevant based on the criteria of the application. So 290B is a very broad, it's a form that's used for a myriad of cases once they get denied. So it really depends on the requirements of the specific case that was denied. But yeah, a 290B has a lot of strategy behind it, or should, I should say. It should. In my office, it has a lot of strategy behind it. My colleagues that I know, who are in other immigration firms, has a lot of strategy behind it. Um, Senator Ellen, you are welcome. Can good moral character be restored with USCIS? So it's a really good question. It's not really a matter of it being restored. Um, it's really a matter of you meeting the requirements. So good moral character, when we're talking about citizenship application, typically they look back 5 years. So if you have got something within the 5 years immediately before filing, sometimes it's better not to file, right? Sometimes it's better to wait until that thing that you think disrupts or impacts your good moral character finding is outside of the 5 years. Now, immigration can certainly look at that thing depending on what it is, just based on how the questions are so broadly worded on the form. But that's where having a lawyer comes into play and having them make that argument. Um, so it's not really a matter of it being restored. Um, it, it's really about it's really about can you show that you meet the requirements, including good moral character. It's certainly possible not to meet good moral character, um, this year, but in 7 years, you absolutely meet it. It really, it's very, very fact dependent. Um, but it's not really a matter of having it restored. It's not something that they sort of take from you and then can give back to you. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's helpful. Um, Virgo British is saying that they have a few questions I want to ask. Can I inbox or do you have a contact number? If you hit my bio, you can certainly schedule a consult. We can talk about whatever those questions are. Yes. USAS is still open during the shutdown. Um, let's see here. Um, let's see. Can I travel to my home country with SIJ, special juvenile guardianship green card? You have put this question in here like a good 15 times or so. My office doesn't handle SIJ, special juvenile guardianships. So I would recommend that you seek out an attorney that does, and that does them all day, every day. I I don't know the answer to your question. That is not something I do, and that's one thing I think you want in an attorney is for them to say, "I don't know," or "I have to research," or "My office doesn't handle this," or "I'm not the best person for you for this particular issue." Um, I am perfectly comfortable saying that there are things that I don't know everything within the immigration landscape. There's a lot that happens within immigration. Um, and so I don't know it all. And I'm okay with telling you that. Um, Between my colleagues and I, some of my immigration besties, we all sort of work on different pieces of the puzzle. And so, if I get someone who really needs help on a piece of the puzzle that I don't do, I happily refer folks to some people that I know are really good in that, are really good in what they're doing. Um, uh, Someone is asking, how did I become a USCIS officer? I applied. I there is, back in the day there was a I forget what it's called now. I've there's a super specific website. I'm sure it still exists, but I can't remember the name of it. It is specifically for um, all federal government jobs. I went on there, I saw it, I applied, I got it. Like it wasn't this like incredibly arduous process at the time. Um, so yeah, that's how it happened. I applied. But good question. If the estimated wait time passed for work permit via marriage, should we contact them about it? You certainly can. You certainly can. If you've gone onto the website and it says, X number of months, and you are well past that, one, understand that what's on the website, it reflects 80% of the cases that are like yours. Some will be processed faster, some will be processed slower. Um, but you can certainly reach out to them and be like, hey, what's happening here? You guys said it was going to be 16 months. We're now at 24 months. Can you tell me what's happening here? Um, you are quite welcome. My pleasure. Have you ever had a successful P3 client? Oh, it's been a long time since I've worked on Ps. Um, that's it. USAJobs.gov. I think that is it. I think yes. I think that's. I didn't think the website had changed. It's been a while, so I couldn't remember. But yes, I think it's USAJobs.gov. So if you're interested in working at, let me see here. So if you're interested in working, oh yeah, it's still there. So if you're interested in working for not just USCIS, but any government agency, their jobs are all listed on usajobs.gov. So El Nuevo, thank you for posting that, folks. Yep. So usajobs.gov. Da, 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 da. How likely is it to get your I-290B overturned? Completely depend. That is completely fact dependent. And you're not getting the 290B overturned, you're getting your denial overturned. It is completely fact dependent. Much better way to say it depends, but it depends. But it really does depend on the facts. It depends on the facts. It depends on the initial criteria. It depends on um, what you submitted. It depends on what you can submit now. I-290s, 290Bs are very strategy intensive. So you want to keep that in mind. Those are not something I generally recommend that people do on their own. Um, but Batty Boy One saying hello over on Instagram. Hello back at you. And by the way, y'all, we're live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Let's see. Hold on. Answer a couple more questions, and then I'm going to tell you you're very welcome, and then I'm going to go have some dinner. I sent over my I-751 application a month before my card expires. Should I be nervous? Filed jointly. You shouldn't be. I don't know obviously I don't know what's in your application, but it sounds to me like you sent it in, you filed it before, before your card expired. So it's just a matter of waiting for them to process the application. Um, is it safe to apply for EB3 whilst on H4 from within the US? Sure. Why wouldn't it be? Yeah, that's that's kind of part of the process. That is a natural path. So for those of you that don't know, an H4 is a dependent for an H1B. An H1B is a temporary work authorized visa. It's one of the employment based categories. The H1B, the H4 is for the dependent spouse. The EB3 is a third preference employment based green card category. So often what happens is people are in H1B and H4 if they have a dependent, and while they are in H1B/H4, we will go ahead and start the green card application, whether that be EB1, 2, or 3. So that is a very, very natural, progression, a very natural path in employment-based immigration world. My office handles those quite a bit. Would you recommend green card holders not to travel outside the US? I do not have in my office a blanket rule for green card holders not to travel out of the US right now. Um, I do have a rule where if my folks come to me and they say, "Hey, I want to travel," we look at their background. We look and see, we ask them if they have a criminal background anywhere in the world at any time, even before you got your green card, especially after you were issued your green card. What's going on your social media presence? Is it something where an officer could say that you are being anti-American or anti-president? So yeah, there's a couple things that we look at. So no, I don't have a blanket sort of policy or rule or thought that I think people with green cards should not travel right now. It is more um, what is your particular background. So can someone who is a green card holder travel? The rule says absolutely they can. Should a green card holder travel? Completely different answer. I don't know. And I don't know because it really depends on what is happening in their own particular situation. So a lot of, and I say this a lot, y'all, a lot of immigration is, the question is, can I versus should I? And oftentimes the question of can you is usually yes. It's usually going to be yes, right? Like the rules, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, we can file that for you. The better question is, should we file? Should we travel? Should we do this? Um, and so that is going to be very, very fact dependent. Um, let's see here. Would I recommend EB3 green card holders not to travel outside of the US? Same answer. Um, I'm going to have an interview this coming the 4th. I'm nervous. I know my telling you not to be nervous is not going to make you not nervous, but um, think of the think of the interview as a conversation because that's what it is. It's a conversation. If you are working with an attorney, let them know you're nervous. Ask them if they will do a mock interview with you. Um, that mock interview would be based on your specific facts, your specific case. Um, if you don't have an attorney and you want to do a mock interview, my office does then. You can do that mock interview directly with me. My clients tell me that I tend to be a whole lot more aggressive. Some of my clients call me mean when we do mock interviews, but more so than the officer. But that makes them feel good because they feel super prepared. So, but it is at the end of the day a conversation, an important conversation. So I'm not trying to minimize the importance of it. It is an important conversation, but it is a conversation. Um, and you are given an opportunity to answer questions, right? But it's a conversation. It's not an interrogation. It's not a grilling. It's a conversation. The interviews happen in an office setting, not in what you would consider, like a courtroom. They're in an office. Um, so I would say take a deep breath, review the application that you filed, and go on and have a conversation. Let us know. We'll come back and let us know how it goes. Because I like to celebrate wins, but my office has nothing to do with them. I say it all the time. From a newbie lawyer, Jelly, how do you approach cases? Are there things you look for in accordance with the regulations? Um, yes, I do look at the regs. I look at the policies. Um, and that's a sort of how I approach cases, a much, much broader question. Yeah, that's like probably a little too broad of a question for this particular live, but yeah, I mean, I think as a newer lawyer, understanding the rules is super important. And it's going to take you a little bit longer until you really know the rules and feel super, super comfortable with them. I always say for new lawyers, it's great if you have a mentor that you can use as a safety net who will answer your questions. I had a great mentor. I'm still in contact with my mentor. I've built a village of immigration attorneys, and we often bounce ideas off one another. And I've been doing it for almost 30 years. So that learning atmosphere, that collaborative atmosphere, doesn't go away, or I think shouldn't go away. I think you should always have other professionals that you ask questions of. Um, let's see here. More questions about uh, travel, which we've already done. This will probably be my last question. I passed the so this is a citizenship application. I passed the English test, but they didn't give me approval because they need some documents. Okay, so they will, if they haven't already, they will send you something in writing about what they need, and then you send them what they need. Oftentimes, when I have had officers in an interview tell us, or really tell me as the lawyer, that they need documents or they need evidence of something else, I write it down. Like I write it down right then and there. Because I take notes throughout all of the interviews that I do or that I'm a part of. But I also make sure that I ask them to send me the RFE, because it doesn't matter what they say in the interview. What matters is what comes through in the written request for further evidence. So you want to get that request for further evidence from them. Like, I mean, they'll send it, they'll mail it out. Um, and then you can start tackling that, whatever they say they need. Because oftentimes when you have a request for further evidence, they tell you the documents that they would like to see. There's always language in there depending on what they want, right? But there's often language in there that says, if you think or you don't have these particular documents or you think there are better documents, give us those, right? Um, but you always want to make sure that you get the request for further evidence in writing, in addition to any notes that I take or that your lawyer takes or that you take during the interview. And if you're in there without a lawyer, you're probably like so focused, like not really taking notes, because they frown on you all writing things down. They don't necessarily frown on me as a lawyer and they're writing things down. Um, so yeah, I would wait until you get your RFE and then see what's in the RFE and then go from there. Go from there. See, if you have, if you remember what they said they wanted, start collecting that documentation now before you get the RFE so that when you get the RFE, you're able to kind of quickly turn that around. Um, so tonight has been great. I felt like getting on, but again, it rained and I still wanted to get my walk in. So got my walk in, got to talk to y'all too, but now I'm going to go have some dinner. But this has been fun. I'll be back again. Before I say that, I think I'm back again tomorrow. Let me make sure my calendar. I'll be back again tomorrow, giving you any more updates that I have. I'm happily answer some questions. But yeah, if you have super specific questions that you want to talk about, one-on-one, you can hit the link in the bio, schedule a consult, and you will have a conversation directly with me. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. I am out of Florida. I work out of Florida, but we work with clients all over the country and all over the world. So if you need assistance with U.S. immigration, let us know. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.